many thanks for joining us on TVN Business Daily. I am Chiwendu Osisiego. Today we shall be discussing on diplomacy and business in Africa, the new era. Africa approaches a new era of economic power competition as several emerging economies continue to increase their engagement across the African continent, with emphasis on their trade and investment relations. A new chapter of power competition through economic diplomacy seeks to mix traditional development assistance and other official finance with more private sector investment. Increased investment represents a unique opportunity to further much needed structural change across the continent. Yet, results at country levels will highly depend on the extent to which they enable domestic revenue, local value addition, and step out of well-known investment patterns of the past. This is basically what we shall be discussing today, diplomacy and business in Africa. And of course, our guest is here with me in the studio to espouse more. But before we proceed with the discussion, let's look at the business update for today. President Muhammadu Buhari has blamed politicians and oil companies for conspiring to deny Nigerian commensurate revenue from oil production and sale, particularly taxes over the years. He said this on Monday after signing the amended Deep Offshore Act in London, noting that for many years taxes were kept at Brest, minimum above $20 per barrel. The senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, in a statement quoted Buhari as saying at the event that the signing of the Deep Offshore Act is an important day for all Nigerians, particularly the young generation. According to the president, for the first time under the amended law, 200 million Nigerians will start to receive a fair return on the surface of resources of the land, and the increased income will allow for new hospitals, schools, infrastructures, and jobs, noting that rapid reduction in the cost of exploration, extraction, and maintenance of oil fields had occurred over the 25-year period. The federal government has said all diversions around construction zones on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway will be open to motorists from December 15. The director of the Federal Highway Southwest, Funsho Adebiyin, made this known on Monday during his interaction with truck drivers in Ogere, Ogun State. Adebiyi said the decision was to ensure free flow of traffic during the Christmas period, adding that work would resume after the season. According to him, the 65 kilometers of the road had been completed, 20 kilometers on Section 1 from the old toll gate to Shagamu interchange being handled by Julius Berger, and 45 kilometers on Section 2 from the interchange to Ibadan being handled by the RCC. He, however, ordered truck drivers to either relocate or move backward by at least 50 meters from the construction zone, stressing that the activities of the truck drivers have made the reconstruction of some sections of the road almost impossible. The Nigerian Stock Exchange has intensified efforts to ensure the security of information in the capital market. The NSE on Thursday held the 7th edition of its biannual Nigerian Capital Market Information Security Forum, themed the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation Achieving Compliance. The one-day event brought together leading industry, data privacy and security experts and capital market stakeholders to share actionable information on the prevailing data protection regulation aimed at achieving privacy by default and privacy by design. Meanwhile, the forum also highlighted how organizations could comply with regulation on an ongoing basis as a means of protecting client data and boosting investors' confidence. The Chief Risk Officer NSE Razak Ozimedi said the event provides participants a perfect opportunity to get deeper understanding of present and developing trends in information security through case studies. The Governor's Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, on Monday said despite the current global uncertainties that made the International Monetary Fund to review the global economic growth from 3.3% to 3%, Nigerian economic outlook remained positive. Emefiele revealed this while delivering the keynote address at the African Economic Congress in Abuja. The CBN governor, who was represented at the event by the Deputy Governor of Financial System Stability, Aisha Ahmed, described Nigeria's economy as resilient. According to him, the APS Bank was implementing various initiatives that had put the economy on the path of sustainable development, adding that there is no cause for panic. And that's what we have for you today on TVN Business Updates. I am Chiwendo Osisiago. Now we shall be looking at the graphical representations of business stories making headlines. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us, and in case you're just joining us, it's TVN Business Daily. Like I said earlier, we shall be discussing on diplomacy and business in Africa, the new era. And of course, my guest is here with me in the studio. She's a seasoned diplomat, a development advocate, and of course, a journalist in Morocco. She's no older than Miss or Mrs. KARIMA RHANEM. You're welcome to TVN Business.
Thank you so much.
It's good to have you. Okay, well, am I correct with your pronunciation? Is it RHANEM or
RHANEM?
Okay, all right. Okay, discussing on the diplomacy and business in Africa. So, how ready is Africa for this new era?
Okay. Thank you for hosting me on TV today.
Yeah.
And it's good to be in Nigeria for the third time. And I'm here to take part at the African Economic Congress. And basically, we've been talking a lot yesterday and today about African trade, free trade agreement. And I think this is a momentum in Africa. To sign a continental free trade agreement, but of course we tackle a lot of challenges. More specifically, we discuss your question, are we really ready for a continental free trade agreement? And I believe, in my opinion, we have to start first by evaluating the existing economic blocks like ECOWAS, SADC and all, how far they are performing and to what extent they have generated growth in Africa, and to what extent this has impacted the daily lives of Africans, to what extent it has impacted the socio-economic economic conditions of Africans, more specifically to keep most Africans home and promote unlock their potential, promote their business, and fight against brain drain. Because today I think Africa needs to be regarded as an economic strategic partner. We don't need foreign aid. We need to unlock the potential of our people, empower our people to own their own solutions, to inclusively participate in our development.
Okay, so are you saying that Africa is ready for competition and an economic power play?
I think, let's say yes and no, because I think there are a lot of challenges ahead. Of course, there have been a lot of initiatives that have been done, to promote trade, to boost intra-regional cooperation, and to generate growth. And there have been a lot of other initiatives, a type of the legislation, in order to to improve doing business in different African countries. Yet, I think. First of all, at the diplomatic level, it took them more than 2 decades, almost 2 decades, to have a continental free trade agreement. So you see that there are a lot of negotiations involved in that, and it's very difficult. First of all, because we still have several intra-regional conflicts in Africa. We have diverse, priorities, we're a continent, we're different countries, we have different cultures, we have different priorities, and the pace is different from one country to another. So I think we need more economic diplomacy, a lot of negotiations to find a common ground on how we can unify the processes and procedures and doing business in Africa. For me, I think it's beyond eliminating tariffs, because it's not eliminating tariffs, it's reducing the cost. But I think the problem will lie on the impact on the manufacturing products and the impact on the production capacity. Because the issue here is, what are the measures that we have done in order to prepare more specifically small and medium enterprises to be ready for, to survive competition with the giants, and also to enter new markets that they don't even know. I think also one of the challenges is also the local products. We don't have actually any efficient study on consumer behavior in Africa, because we used to have a trade with other countries, but how to boost trade between African countries? First of all, we need, I think, to develop value chains to valorize local products, and what are the measures that we should do to ensure that revenues will be, stable, at least, so as not to avoid losing jobs, and also how to ensure that these small and medium enterprises have the capacity and the skills necessary to enter those markets.
Okay, thank you. So how would you describe the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement? Is it a sign of African preparedness to navigate this era as a continent?
I think, we talked a lot about challenges, but I think let's say that it is a very positive, even it took us almost more than 2 decades to reach out this agreement. But I think it is high time that we set out strategies and policies, but more specifically work at each country to align continental policies into national levels, because we have different priorities, and if we're not aligning those policies in the sense that it will be contextualized to ensure better implementation at the ground, in the sense that it would impact the daily lives of people. Because me, for example, as a citizen and another citizen do not care about those big concepts of economy. They care only about their purchasing power, the small and medium enterprises. Exactly. They care about their scope of products and how much they're going to generate growth. And I think also one of the other issues that we need to discuss here is the impact on jobs.
Okay.
Today we are in the era of digitalization, automatization, artificial intelligence, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. You know, the world is changing. And you know, where you know, today companies are relying more on machines and robots than human element. But I think what is more important here is how to raise the capacity of people, how to invest in people in order to make them ready to face this phase of industrialization and automatization in order to avoid losing jobs. And this is, I think, one of the challenges. And in many countries, I think now they're discussing ways of, you know, developing new models and approaches to ensure that we have employability, more specifically for young people, because we have to prepare this new generation for the coming years. Because today I can say that there are certain jobs that do no longer exist. Still at our universities and our education system was still training people and educating people on jobs that do not exist anymore in the market. So how are we going to reform the education system and align it with the market and for more employability?
Okay, so are you saying the initiative, this African free trade, is a good one?
I think yes, but I think we have to work so hard on putting up legislation and aligning this legislation into country context, and at the same time, you know, doing certain reforms, finance reforms, banking reforms to provide, you know, entrepreneurs access to finance and credit. You know, today we're talking about knowledge economy, so we have to prepare, you know, the future skills because we need knowledge workers, and also we need to put out certain systems and processes in order to develop a new ecosystem. Exactly.
Definitely. Okay, let's take a quick bite on the border closure and its diplomatic implications. Does this not threaten our ability to achieve a free continental market via the African Free Trade Agreement?
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
Okay, I was talking about the border closure. And diplomatic implication. So does this not threaten our ability to achieve a free continental market via the African Continental Free Trade Agreement?
I think this is one of the serious questions. I think we brought it even yesterday, you know, the free trade agreement. I think this is a serious problem because how would you do a continental free trade agreement where you decide to close your borders? And of course, countries are sovereign. They have the right to protect their borders. But I think they should be a kind of facilitation for mobility for goods and services and also for humans. And yesterday, I have talked about mobility because this is quite a serious problem. We've been talking a lot about facilitating visas upon arrival, doing African passport, and all those type of nice initiatives that unfortunately stayed in political discourse, but not translated into political actions. And I think we need to find out ways to have more realistic initiative, because it takes us time. If we say if you look at the European Union example now with the Brexit and, you know, other types of big continental blocks, I think they have gone through a certain process until they have managed, regardless of the conflicts they have, regardless of the language barriers they have, they managed to have one currency, they managed to have regional passports, they managed to facilitate mobility and suppression of certain visas. I think we're still a little bit far, and I think this is one of the issues that needs to tackle. And another thing that yesterday I had made a call to sign a 1 million petition to reduce the tariffs on airlines. You know, I think this is one of the serious problems that impacts businesses, impact youth. You know, when we do trade among countries, or even when we attend business and economic conferences, we find it very difficult to attend, because not only because of visa, but because of the cost of airlines. And it is very shameful today that also from an African country we have to travel to another continent to come to Africa. And the cost of airlines are so expensive that will block, you know, businesses to do business together. So I think this is something that we need to advocate for, and it is already a part of the 2063 agenda. So I think it's in the African Union agenda already, but we need to advocate for it so that we can speed up the process. If we're talking about a free trade agreement that being signed now, we're not going to wait until 2063. So I think there are certain things that needs to be done to encourage young entrepreneurs, you know, to benefit from other types of success stories and best practices and lessons learned from different African countries. And I think I've been traveling to many African countries. I've been seeing a lot of innovation, and this is something that is important in free trade agreement today. We need to be more innovative. We need to use smart technology to solve development problems, and this is how we're going to unlock the potential of our young people, because they have great ideas. They can participate inclusively in the GDP and in our local economy's growth. So I think the key is we have to invest in the people.
Okay, now let's quickly go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue. So stay with us. Thanks for staying with us, and in case you're just joining us, it's the TVN Business Daily, and we've been discussing on diplomacy and business in Africa, the new era. And of course, my guest has been here discussing on the issue. She's a seasoned diplomat, a development advocate, and of course, a journalist in Morocco. She is KARIMA RHANEM. Okay, my next question is, just to achieve increased revenue to make the economy competitive, some African countries such as Nigeria have increased, for instance, value-added tax. So it is a step in the right direction.
Well, not just Nigeria. I think there are many countries more recently, they have increased the VAT value, more specifically for imported products from other countries. Well, I think probably this is one of the means to protect their own economy, because we know when we are in a free trade zone, and when we talk about the liberalization of the market, we have foreign companies that come to our country, and sometimes they might impact the economy. So it's like a kind of protective measures from certain countries to protect their economy. But I think it may, prevent some of the investors that are usually traditional investors coming to invest your country to stop investing because of the increase of the taxation on important products. So I think it has two ways. So I think also that involves certain negotiations, either bilateral or multilateral negotiations, in order to alleviate the burden of taxes, but at the same time not to impact the economy and not to make local companies bankrupt. Because if you have foreign companies that have good quality products and probably maybe cheaper than the local products, and then it will be very hard for whether cheaper or even expensive, but we have to see what is the consumer behavior and what the consumers prefer to buy. Even sometimes we prefer to buy important products than encouraging local products. So here we should really seriously see a balance between consumer behavior, attracting foreign investment to your country, but at the same time not impacting the survival of local companies. Because I think this might impact the trade flow, the productivity, the employment, the wages, and the consumer spending as well.
Okay, so what will African countries start doing to ensure foreign investors are not the biggest gainers in this new arrangement?
I think more recently I've seen several programs done by different governments in order to raise the capacity, more specifically of small and medium enterprises, in order to face the competition of different markets, because today the market is diversified, and our behavior as consumers changes according to the increase of smart technologies. I mean, the world is changing all the time, and our needs are changing. And I think that knowing much more, the market, getting those small and medium enterprises the necessary information. So they need to access information, data about investment, about products, about networking. They need to strengthen their network in order to be able to do that. Also, I think one of the most important thing that some countries worked on is to develop value chains to valorize the local products, because we have Africa, I think, is one of the best continents in raw materials and resources, but we're not exploiting enough to brand our local or national products abroad. And I think this is something that needs to be worked on, more specifically in terms of quality of production, but also marketing.
Okay. All right. The Kingdom of Morocco is a beautiful country with a good economy. So please briefly share a story and diplomatic affinity with Nigeria.
Okay. Let me talk a little bit about example of Morocco. I think, first of all, we have very good relationship with Nigeria, and I think the exchange of visits between our king and your president is a translation of goodwill and political will of two countries to strengthen their cooperation. And I think also the agreements that have been signed between our two countries are quite important. This the gas pipeline and also the chemical plant and other types of agriculture agreements is quite important. We have also a Morocco-Nigeria strategic dialogue, and I think your ambassador to our country is hosting this month a business dialogue between Morocco and Nigeria. I myself trying to develop networking between Moroccan civil society and Nigerian civil society to boost these relations. So I think this is something important. We have so much we have so many things in common, a lot to share. While Nigeria is a leader in gas and petrol, producer of gas and petrol, Morocco is a leader in solar energy. So we have a lot, to exchange in terms of that. Also, that Morocco is, I think, one of the probably, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is the first key investor in West Africa.
Okay.
Morocco has a vision to boost South-South cooperation through, more specifically, economic diplomacy. And our kin has paid more than 50 visits to different African countries to boost bilateral and multilateral relations. And that we just returned like 2 years ago, I think, to our institutional home. And basically, my initiative was inspired by His Majesty King Mohammed VI's speech during the return of the African Union, where he said, we're coming back to our home. Africa is our home, and it is our collective duty to build it collectively and own our own solutions done by Africans, with Africans and for Africans. So I think that this is a very good vision that His Majesty outlined during his speech, and I think it was not just a speech; it's like a vision for the continent. As to the experience of Morocco in terms of economic partnership, empowering youth and women, I think we have multidisciplinary strategy in order to boost the economy and empower youth more specifically, and also the economic empowerment of women. We have created the National Initiative of Human Development so that we can provide a granting system to civil society to work on development issues, more specifically in impoverished areas. We're probably, I think, we're one of the leaders of social and solidarity economy. Also, the microfinance was a very good initiative, to boost women's economic empowerment. And today, our kin has instructed the government to work on ways to reform the banking system, to give access more to credits and finance to both women and youth, to initiate entrepreneurship projects. And also, our kin instructed the government to create a multidisciplinary committee to think about a new model of development, because as I said in the beginning today, we need partnership,
definitely,
but we don't need aid. We need to be regarded as a key strategic economic partner rather than receiving foreign aid. So we should be in equal partnership, and we should work on our own solutions while being open to other countries. And one last thing I would say about Morocco, I think today Morocco has realized that the key thing in any economic development is to invest in people.
That's a good one. Okay, I believe this is your third visit to Nigeria. So how many more times will you visit? Okay.
I think this will not be the last, of course. I mean,
obviously.
Well, let's say I'm a big fan and lover of Nigeria. I visited Nigeria 2 years ago, and this is my third year in 2 years. Visit in 2 years, and I was very amazed by the talent I see here, more specifically from women and youth, and I think it's quite important to empower these young people and unlock their potential, because they have a lot of great ideas, but they need coaching, they need capacity building, they need more financial and technical support in order to develop their initiative and make it a concrete project. And before yesterday, I had the chance to see some of the youth here in Nigeria, who one of them has created a drone, and others had created them, a machine, for mobility, and others for farming, and they created it with, very simple materials. And these young people are coming from poor areas, which gives me that idea is that we might not always be the production of our environment. We might choose not to fall in the trap of delinquency, in the trap of violent extremism, but we choose also to be innovative and to be hopeful about the future and create. And I think these are some of the key role models that young people need to see, because regardless of the obstacles, regardless of the economic conditions, they are doing a lot of efforts in order to get out. And these are the talents that we need in Africa. We don't want people to go risk their life in sea immigrating illegally. We don't want to have a brain drain. We need all those talents inside Africa to build collectively this continent.
Yeah, and truth be told, Nigerians, we are actually creative.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, what's your final thoughts on economic diplomacy in Africa?
I think one of the key important things is economic diplomacy, and then I think when we talk about trade, we talk about political diplomacy, and we talk about political economic diplomacy, and that needs a lot of negotiations, because we are so different. We have different priorities. We are sovereign countries. We have issues. There are a lot of other things that sometimes we might not pay attention to, because when we sign an agreement, it involves a lot of other provisions, and it should be aligned with other policies, other laws, etc. And this needs, multi-stakeholder participation and a lot of negotiations. So I think business actors, civil society, politicians, parliamentarians need to sit in one table and learn more about the effective ways of doing economic diplomacy in order to build those partnerships. Because after all, when we think about all the conflicts, they all start from socioeconomic conditions. And if we work, to promote peace, to promote regional cooperation, economic partnership, I think we will let's say reduce the tensions, and people will start already working together. So we will have to find a culture ground through diplomacy and through citizen diplomacy. For example, when I come to see here civil society organizations and I work with the people, then we started building those culture and those relationships, because after all, we are humans, we share a lot of things. So I think diplomacy is quite important in Africa in order to avoid conflicts and to boost partnership.
All right, thank you so much, KARIMA RHANEM, for coming on TVN Business. It's good to have you.
Thank you.
And we hope to have you some other time.
Yes, certainly.
All right, that's much we have for you today on TVN Business Daily. And don't forget you can follow us on Facebook and on YouTube at Television Nigeria, and also on Twitter at TV Nigerian. Thanks for watching.